peace. Salamun, 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 salam. Salamun, 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 salam. Salamun, 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 salam.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is Waleed Basyouni, and I would like to welcome you in a new episode of Heroic or Heretic. We have our guests here, alhamdulillah, Brother Omar and Ahmed, and we was talking all these episodes about some of the issues that these extreme jihadi groups in modern days have basically started discussion about a lot of issues like al-jihad, khilafah, many different issues we've been covering. Today I would like to speak about some of the doubts, some of the evidence that they use to justify killing innocent people. You know, most of these jihadi groups will tell you, we agree that the default rules, we're not supposed to target civilians. But there is reasons now allowed us to target civilians, to justify actions like what took place in Saudi Arabia or Egypt or Iraq or UK or USA or any other countries. So we have justification for it, and they use many evidence. I'm wondering if you heard any one of their argument before?
Yeah, well, actually, I know the story in the time of the Prophet, peace and be upon him, of one of the Muslim men who was called Abu Basir.
Yes, that's very famous.
Yeah,
evidence that they use.
Yes, you know, in the time of the treaty with the disbelievers, he used to attack them and you know, take their.
So there was a treaty between the Prophet ﷺ and the basically the people of Mecca.
Yeah.
But still Abu Basir, who used to attack the Meccan people.
Yes.
And the Nabi ﷺ did not stop him from that.
Yeah.
And this is not considered something that he broke the treaty.
Yes.
So they said, we are Abu Basir. That's what they're saying. These jihadist
really strange.
We are Abu Basir today, and you have your treaty with those people.
Yes.
And the answer for this, actually, Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah answered this. And look at what they do. So what's the treaty here in modern days? The treaty is when I have a group of tourists come to visit this country, or a country, or people live in this country. Let's say one of these tourists go to a country, there's a treaty, okay? The treaty is when you go to my country, you're safe, you're secured. So the Muslims give you, or this country, give you a promise that you will be safe in our country while you're coming for business, for tourism, whatever reason you are here in this country for. Okay? So this treaty is something must be respected by everyone, because that is civilian, that a person who's been giving a word of protection. Okay? And the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said that يَسْعَى بِذِمَّتِهِمْ أَدْنَاهُمْ. Anyone in the Muslim community, if he or she give her word or his word of protection to an individual, that individual must be harmed, cannot be harmed. That's what Hani, she gave up her word of protection to someone that the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam wanted him to be killed. But the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, because of what Hani did, he said, أَجَرْنَا مَنْ أَجَرْتِ يَا Hani.
Allahu Akbar.
Hani, you give your word of protection to this person, he's protected. Nobody should touch him. So that's the same ruling. If the government or the passport officer give a visa, give his word that this person can enter this country safe and sound, he should not expect harm, we should not betray that. But those people use Abu Basir example. They said, yes, the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam gave his word that he will not harm. He will not harm the Quraysh, but Abu Basir used to harm them and to attack them. We say that Abu Basir never attacked someone inside Medina. Never attacked the mushrikeen inside the Medina. In the area where the Prophet ﷺ controlled. So any area under the control of the Prophet ﷺ, Abu Basir would never touch. That's why Abu Basir, when he saw the ambassador of Quraysh in Medina, and the dialogue took place, he never attacked that ambassador. He never waited until he came out of the masjid and stabbed him. He never did that. Basically, everything that Basir did was outside the control of Medina. And Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam did not in a secret way made a deal with him. Go, no, and Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam freed himself from his action. He's not responsible because he was not member of the Medina community. He chose to be outside the state of Medina. So when these guys come and attack people who inside Egypt or inside Iraq or inside Saudi Arabia and attack them, that's betrayed to the treaty that was given to these individuals entering the country. And Abu Basir's story is not related to them at all. Because Abu Basir never attacked someone inside the country of Rasulullah SAW, where the Prophet ﷺ controlled. It's completely like apple and orange. They're very different cases. That's number one. Yes?
Yeah, I think they also make another argument that is like we don't actually recognize these governments or these rulers in these Arab and Muslim world, and thus any peaceful pact or any peaceful treatment, we are not abiding by this. We're not abiding.
Very good. So this is a very common thing they use. They said, we don't care about all the treaty, all the visas, all the basically the treaty that you sign in United Nations and whatever it is. We don't agree with it. This is kufr. And those leaders, these governments, we don't recognize them to be a legit governments, and we consider them murtaddeen or people left Islam or kuffar or whatever they consider them. And they said that's why we're not entitled to the treaty that they give. And we believe, so because this have two faces, two sides. That's one side in relation to the Muslims country and the people who come to it. And they said, as for us, when we go to non-Muslim country, like he applied for a citizenship, or he applied for a visa to go to America as a student, he's supposed to be a student. He's not supposed to be going there to hijack an airplane. That's right. So he said, I did this as a khid'ah. And al-harb khid'ah. Harb is a trick. War is a trick. So I tricked them to enter their country. And here we say, number one, it's not allowed for individuals to decide who's mu'min and who's kafir like that. Like, it's not fair for them to come to say, okay, this is like a kafir country or a kafir government and we don't consider it. That's not in your hand. This is something that should be in the hand of the grand muftis, the senior scholars of the Muslim ummah. Number two, even if we say that the ruler is not a Muslim or even a murtad, it is not a reason for this treaty to be broken. Okay? Why? Because the point is what that person who entered the country believe. So even if there is, the one who initiated that contract, you have a problem with, or you don't recognize him as a legit government, but since he issued that treaty, and since the person entered the country, or allowed you to enter the country, with the assumption that this is safe, you cannot betray him because this is khiyana. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala do not allow khiyana. This is not a trick. This is a betraying. This is cheating. That's not a trick. And العلماء رحمه الله يقولون فساد الوصف لا يدل على فساد الأصل. يعني because there is a problem in the descriptions or one of the conditions, it doesn't basically negate the actual contract. The actual contract. For example, if I do a contract with you, can I buy your cell phone? And we do a contract and I make the contract. Then Allah forbid that person who did the contract with you became murtad. We say the contract is invalid?
No.
Khalas, he can take your money and go away? No. You still bind by the contract. And the same thing with the contract of that treaty. There is a contract between both sides. They're not expecting harm. And also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah, He doesn't love and like the kha'inin and the zalimeen, the transgressors. And anyone who make dhulm, transgression against dhimmi or mu'ahad, that Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said will never smell the fragrance of Jannah, even though you can smell the fragrance from such and such distance. And لكل غادر لواء يوم القيامة يقال هذه غدرة فلان. Every betrayer in the day of judgment, while there is a banner next to his bottom, coming up from where his bottom is all the way up, saying that this person is a betrayer. And no doubt this is a betraying them. Also, Umar radiallahu anhu ardah, he said, if someone even give a hint a hint by a sign language to someone who's non-Muslim to enter and to come, and he understood from this sign that he's safe. You just give a sign language, oh, come on, or it's okay, come on, like let's say it like this. And he understood that that means I'm safe to come. Then you kill him, he said, I will kill you for it.
Wow.
That's a betraying. That's not allowed. So, and many evidence like that. So the point is what those people believe, what those people feel. Is it fair for those people who go and cheat and betray the people that sometimes they, as we said before, they live in their welfare. They take their money. They use their health care system. That this country shared everything good that they have with them. And in the end of the day, you betrayed them? And you stabbed them in their back? What kind of Islam is this? When Heretic asked about Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and his coming, he said, Ayaghdirun? They betrayed? Then Abu Sufyan said, never. He said, this is what the prophets do. They never betrayed others. I mean, where is this manners of Islam? Where is this quality of Islam comparing to what those people are doing today? Give a very bad image of Islam and Muslim. لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ. The Prophet is our examples. When the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Hudayfa came to him and he said, Ya Rasulullah, or Jabir came to him and he said, Ya Rasulullah, I want to join you in the battle of Badr. And you know, the Muslims were very few. He said, Ya Rasulullah, I want to fight with you, but I want to tell you something. When I left Mecca, I gave my word to the people of Mecca that I will never join your army. He said, أوفي بوعدك ونستعين بالله عليهم. Keep your promise and Allah will help us against it. He refused to take a soldier in such a critical moment just because there's principles that he believed in and he lived up to these principles. But unfortunately, this extreme group today, they have given a completely different image of our religion and represent religion in the worst way it can be ever expected or practiced. With this, we come to, I think, a break. Let's have a break and come back to continue our discussion. So stay tuned.
Peaceful, 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 peace. Peaceful, 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 peace.
I've really come to understand that to be a Muslim, to be someone who says they've surrendered and submitted to the will of God, is to be in harmony with everything around you and to be a benefit to everyone.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our Creator, He gave us a life plan. He told us what to do. He gave us, goals and what He expects from us.
It has roots in Islam because the first man who was created, Adam, he was neither a Jew or a Christian, but he submitted himself to God. Abraham, he didn't submit to anyone in creation. He didn't even hear in any of these religions. But when he was told to do what? Submit to the will of God, that's Islam.
Attached to his preconceived notions. Yes. And if he looks with an objective eye and an open heart, he'll see it. Unless Allah for some reason has something over his eyes because of something that we don't know is in his heart.
You had from 1980 to 2005, you had the FBI data report showing that now from all these years that only 6% had any links to Islam. 94% were people who had nothing to do with Islam.
This is the Deen Show. This is the Deen Show. We welcome your month, we all adore. We pray for happiness.
The Quran, the book of Allah, the miraculous words of Allah, the light in the midst of all darknesses, has so many rights on us. And because of that, we initiated Quran Circle. In Quran Circle 1, we listened to the entire Quran. This was a great blessing.
وَقُرْآنًا فَرَقْنَاهُ لِتَقْرَأَهُ عَلَى النَّاسِ عَلَى مُكْثٍ وَنَزَّلْنَاهُ تَنزِيلًا.
The Quran is both concise and comprehensive. It has all aspects of guidance to all mankind. And because of that, in Quran Circle 2, we selected verses in every juz with a specific topic, we listened to the recitation, and we reflected upon the meaning of that specific topic.
الله نور السماوات والأرض مثل نوره كمشكاة فيها مصباح.
Each surah in the Quran, every chapter of the Quran has an objective. We looked into the objectives of the surahs that we chose and selected in Quran Circle 3.
لينذر من كان حيا ويحق القول على الكافرين.
Brothers and sisters, join us this Ramadan in Quran Circle 3. Get ready, open your mushafs, and follow with the recitation, and wait for the reflection after we finish the recitation.
Ramadan, welcome holy month Ramadan, Ahlan Ramadan.
Peaceful, 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 peace. Peaceful, 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 peace.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to your program, Heroic or Heretic. We're still talking about some of the evidence or doubts that they raised, these extreme jihadi groups today, to justify their actions of targeting civilians and killing civilians, even though it's known in Islam that killing civilians is haram. When Abu Bakr sent Yazid and he said to him, you're not allowed to target a woman or an elderly man or a monk. And another narration, you're not allowed to, Umar said also, you're not allowed to attack or to kill a farmer or a business or a slave or a worker. In a modern language, they call them civilians. And Al-Qurtubi, rahimahullah, said when Abu Bakr and Umar mentioned that in front of all the companions, no one objected to it. So it became like ijma', consensus, from all the companions that this is the rule. But those people today, they target buildings, they target airplanes, they target, tourists, they target civilians, people in the mall, like you see in Kenya. What can justify that? And they use evidence or some doubts. We refute some of them. And yes, do you remember one of their points?
I think one of their arguments is that American people, they pay taxes to the government. They elect their leaders. For instance, they are going to elect the upcoming president in the United States or any Western country. So any political decision is now, they are culprits with the rulers.
Very good. Well, this is very common. They said that people in Western world, for example, or any country that they target, they said they elected their president, their government. Okay, they elected their government, they taxpayers, and their tax goes to support the Israel, go to support the military, the drones that take place attacking Muslims around the world, and so forth. So basically, the civilians participating in the war. And this is very strange understanding. And I could not comprehend yet, put my hand on how those people think. Saying that basically because they pay tax, so they are not civilian anymore, they became soldiers. I don't know where they get that from. I have a question. In the time of the Romans and the Persians, didn't also the farmers, the businessmen, that everybody in the country used to pay tax or not?
Yeah. They used to pay tax.
Did Umar said, hey, go after those taxpayers too?
Never did that.
Didn't the farmers provide food to the army? Didn't the businessmen provide metals and, they manufacture things for them? That justify for the Muslim army to target the civilians? If we can think that way, there is no concept of civilians and militant. That everybody became a military, part of the military. This is nonsense. It's absolutely nonsense. That's number one. Number two is giving the, basically when you give the tax, is it something that you volunteer the tax, or it's taken from you without your permission?
It's taken from you, of course.
So that's another issue. A third point. When I give tax, I pay tax in America every year. you know. And when I pay tax, and my intention, do I pay tax because I want my tax to go to basically to turn to be a bomb? No. My tax go to fix the roads, for my children's schools, for the hospitals, for the thing that benefit the public. Nobody ever, 99% of the people, when they think of their taxes, they don't think of their taxes as a mean to harm others at all. And if we're going to say that every government, that if it does an action, that means everyone in the society be responsible for the action of the government, that's become a very problematic thing. That even if we say this according to the jihadi groups themselves, any action their leaders makes, it represents every single one of their members, that would be even fire back on them, and that's not fair and just. Because the rule is that you should not bear the burden of other people's sins. That's right?
Yeah, that's right.
So if this is a very weak argument that is not acceptable and unfounded. It doesn't have any foundations. One of the things that also sometimes they said that Allah, the Prophet ﷺ mentioned an army will come to Al-Kaaba and Allah destroyed the whole army. And in the army, people who are not soldiers, like people basically nurses, and there is in the army people who take care of the horses, feed the horses. Yeah, but they were in the battlefield. That's number one. Not living in their homes, not in their offices working, not in the train, not flying in an airplane. That's completely different. Number two, you make an analogy between Allah's action and your action. Allah destroyed them.
Yeah.
That's different. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did that. You don't make analogy on what Allah did and you did. So if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bring a flood and drown any nation, so that means it's allowed for you to go cause a flood into nation and to flood them? It's completely nonsense. And you can see that every evidence that they use, it is basically, it's weak argument. Even one of the arguments that they use, an issue called مسألة التترس. التترس, what is التترس? التترس, this is something al-ulama rahimahullah discussed. They said, if there is a group of, now the enemy attacking a Muslim city, and they capture some of the Muslims, and they put them as a human shield to enter the city, can the Muslim in this case defend themselves by throwing arrows and using the catapult and basically attack this army, even though they have a human shield of Muslims, and that will cause to some of these Muslims to die? Is it allowed or not? The ulama said it's allowed. Why? Because if we don't allow it, they will enter the city and they will kill more people. Can you make analogy of this case to justify 9/11?
No.
Is there any relationship between the two? They deceive the young people. They just bring these issues and said, oh, he is allowed here killing civilian for a greater... No, there's completely different issues. It's like when also the leader come and tell you, فَمَنِ اعْتَدَى عَلَيْكُمْ فَاعْتَدُوا عَلَيْهِ بِمِثْلِ مَا اعْتَدَى عَلَيْكُمْ. Whoever transgress against you, transgress against them with the same way, in the same manner. They said, they attack our civilians, so we should attack their civilians. They kill our children, we kill their children. They kill our women, we kill their women. Shawkani rahimahullah ta'ala, he said that this ayah cannot be taken as a general verse like that. Because the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, وَلَا تَخُنْ مَنْ خَانَكَ. Do not betray those who betrayed you. Trading and cheating is not allowed, even if someone cheated you or betrayed you. So for them to say that we just treat them the similar way, that's not true. If they say, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, وَإِنْ عَاقَبْتُمْ فَعَاقِبُوا بِمِثْلِ مَا عُوقِبْتُمْ بِهِ. You punish people in the same way they punished you. First of all, this verse, okay, and these verses Al-ulama rahimahullah ta'ala, like Ibn Qudama rahimahullah and others, said that these verses related to al-hudud, not to the war. This is related to al-hudud. What al-hudud? The punishment that prescribed in the Jewish system. So for example, if someone killed someone with, he should be killed in the same method. Al-ulama rahimahullah said, as long as this method, it's permissible. For example, if someone make another person drink alcohol or use drugs until he died, you cannot use the same methods on the person. Al-ulama rahimahullah said, if he basically raped him to death. You cannot rape that person to death. But if you kill him with a weapon, with a gun, you kill him with a gun. Same way, as long as you kill him instantly. Okay? So, al-ulama rahimahullah even didn't take that in general term. So this is related to the punishment or in the court system prescribed by the judge. You cannot take that to the war. And even if you take it to the war, or you make analogy, it has to be in that guidelines, as long as it's allowed. Question, is it allowed to target civilians in Islam?
No.
No. So that means you cannot target civilians in Islam. Is it allowed to burn someone alive? No, it's not allowed. Even if they burn you, don't burn, because burning someone alive is haram. And so forth. So here, these doubts that they raised is not correct. And also, I have another question. Is it true that the Western or the coalitions, international, they truly targeting civilians intentionally? Or it is, most of the cases, it is a collateral damages or a mistake? By understanding or studying war and how modern war works today, you'll find it's a very common thing that the targeting civilian comes as a casualty in the middle. And we see today, even when there is a Muslim coalition like what we see in Yemen, regardless what is my opinion about it, if it's right or not, that's not my point. You see how there is casualties happen in the process, but civilians die. Unfortunately, that's what happened. When the Syrian tried to attack or defend themselves, there are civilians inside the civil war in Syria. You see there are civilians cut in the middle. I don't know any country legislate or even will say openly or officially that they intentionally target civilians. Sometimes they don't care for casualties of the civilians and the expense of reaching a high target, but to make it and to frame it that they targeting civilian intentionally, I don't know if this even exists. It can happen, but it's not something legislated. It's not the common practice. And even we hear a lot of time where many countries, they will hold their officers accountable, go to a military court if they target civilians. And it became a court issue. They say that the West in a state of war with Islam and Muslims. And also, I don't agree with this categorization. I don't think the West is in a war with Islam and Muslims. They say, yes, Sheikh Waleed, but there is people in America and Europe declared that. First of all, these some politicians running for offices, and there is more important figures in the political area and presidents of country said the other way around. They said we're not in a state of war with Islam and Muslims. We're in a state of war with some individuals happen to be Muslims. When America invade, America or the Western world in general today, people, I don't think they are motivated by religion. I don't think it's a war between Islam and non-Islam. It's a war against people they consider a threat. They threat to their benefits of that country. So regardless of what is I don't agree on the practice that we see today toward the Middle East and to the many Muslim countries. But to categorize it and to frame it as a war between Islam and non-Muslim, or Islam and Christianity, or Islam, that's not true. It's like when you say, when, for example, America invaded or engaged in many wars with the Latin Americans. It is a Protestant against Catholics. It's not like that. It is, there is interest, American interest in the South America or in the Middle East. But to turn the world to be a fight based on religion, I think this is a very black and white kind of look. Yes, it is unfair war. Yes, it is not right. Yes, there is injustice happen. Yes, there is a transgression happens. But that's one thing. That's one category, not one frame. But to frame it as a religious war, holy war between the both, I don't think so. You know, anyone lived in the West will understand that it is not. And all this code that they bring about crusaders or Christian based, it is. They happen to be Christian. They use Christian terminologies. But it's not an actual religious war, in my opinion. It's like when you have, you know, a priest come to bless the soldier. It's like when you bring a sheikh. Do you think when you bring a sheikh, it means it's this country, in Muslim country, who make dua for them, it became a jihad? They don't consider that a jihad because they know this, they are Muslims and that's why they pray. They make dua, they make, but it doesn't transfer to be a religious war. Yeah. That's what I'm trying to say. The same thing happened in Christianity, in Judaism, and in any faith based. Especially these countries you talk about, Islam is part of the country. Islam is a religion that's respected in the West. There is a lot of Muslims in the country, in different branches in the government and in the society. I hope we don't look at the world in this way, the black and white. Why? You know, let's be a little bit fair and more realistic in the way we address issues. With this, I will come to an end of this episode. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide all of us and to bring peace to the world and to help all of us to work together for a better future for all of us as humans. With this, I will say, Astaudi'ukum Allah and Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you very much for watching our episode today, and thank you for being with me, and all to the staff as well. I extend my gratitude to all of you.
Peaceful, 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 peace. Peaceful, 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 peace. Peaceful, 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 peace. Peaceful, 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 peace. We made peace a symbol of ours. In the name of peace we gather here now. Oh Lord, please make these days of ours on this earth filled with peace. Salamun, 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 salam. Salamun, salamun, salam.